You are listening to Christian Audio's production of A Little Salty to Cut the Sweet, Southern Stories of Faith, Family, and 15 Pounds of Bacon by Sophie Hudson. This book is read by the author. This audio recording was produced in 2016 by Christian Audio, which owns the copyright. No portion of this recording may be reproduced for any reason without prior written consent from Christian Audio. This edition is issued by contractual arrangement with Tyndale House Publishers. Originally published in English as A Little Salty to Cut the Sweet, copyright 2013 by Sophie Hudson. All rights reserved. Please visit christianaudio.com, facebook.com/christianaudio, or twitter.com/christianaudio to offer your impressions of this work and to explore additional titles. For Papa Davis, who always told the best stories. A little literary disclaimer. These stories are true, for the most part. I mean, you're reading my perspective on these true, for the most part, stories, and my perspective may differ from other people's. I think it's good to remember that. Plus, every once in a while, I change details and names because, well, it seemed like the right thing to do, lest I start some sort of family feud, you understand. I also changed the names of some towns and altered some locations. Real life happens all over the place, and since I didn't want you to need a map in order to follow along, I consolidated the action to a few towns that exist only in my imagination. From that perspective, I guess the stories are 90% true-ish, as opposed to 100% absolutely true. I know, I'm over-explaining. It's what I do when I'm trying to make sure I'm covering all my storytelling bases. There's a chance, I guess, that you'll find yourself wondering why I don't chronicle some big family falling out, why we never seem to argue or disagree or fuss. So let me assure you that we most definitely do all of the above. You know that old Keith Whitley song called I'm No Stranger to the Rain? Well, we're no strangers to the drama. I will say, however, that my grandparents set a high standard in terms of how they expected us to treat each other. So even when we're aggravated, we're much more apt to talk about it than to storm out of a room. On top of that, this book is not meant to be an airing of the grievances. It's meant to be a celebration of family. Consider yourself warned that I may have been prone to some exaggeration and embellishment every once in a while, but that probably goes without saying since I'm Southern and all. Don't roll your eyes, people. It's in my blood. Introduction. Because I'm crazy about my people. One of the great blessings of my life is that I grew up in a family of storytellers. Some of my earliest memories involve sitting in Mama and Papa Davis's den, while my mama, my aunt, and their cousins took turns telling tales. The stories always featured real people and real-life events. Like, for instance, Uncle Herman and Aunt Elsie, or one of the Keenans who lived down the road, or their cousin Tom Ellick. Ellick is a peculiar Mississippi pronunciation that puzzles me to this day, and they were always hilarious. What the stories were not was mean-spirited, and there was never any profanity. In fact, the liveliest the language ever got was when my sweet papa would react to something by saying, well, I'll be John Brown. I had no idea who John Brown was, of course, but that's sort of beside the point. Because as I sat and listened to my mama imitate her Uncle Owen, and heard my aunt howl with laughter over something that happened at the Moss Rose General Store, I learned very quickly that a good story doesn't require all that foul language, as Mama might say. And with the exception of an unfortunate season in my early 20s when I regularly experimented with all the curse words in all their various forms, I've remembered the lesson. Way back in ye olden days of 2005, I was the mama of a 2-year-old, and according to my husband, a person who might benefit from a creative outlet that didn't involve Elmo, VeggieTales, or Blue's Clues. I've been reading blogs for a couple of years, and one night while I sat in the rocking chair in our guest room and watched our little guy play in the tub, I decided I was going to start one of those blog things and maybe try to get back in the swing of writing. I had been a habitual journal keeper from my early teens until my late 20s, but after I got married, I abandoned the writing in favor of some fairly obsessive housekeeping and decorating. After all, it's tough to commit to keeping a journal when you're repainting your bedroom for the 5th time in a year and scouring TJ Maxx and Marshalls for the latest shower curtain shipment. As a wise philosopher once said, discounted linens wait for no woman. But that night in the guest room, I realized that I was ready to write again. I needed to write again. And I figured that if 2 or 3 people wanted to hop on the wide world interweb and read what I wrote, that would be delightful. I thought my daddy, my sister, and my brother might be interested. Maybe even a few friends from college. I knew from the get-go that my mama wouldn't touch the blog with a 10-foot pole since she often reminds us that she doesn't even know how to turn on the email.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?